Hey guys, it's Eldon back here with another episode of Crazy Dad's Garage. So today we're going to do something kind of mundane. I got home the other day and had a oil puddle underneath my green 2004 Chevy Silverado. So crawled under there, got to looking at it, found out, hey, I got a rear seal leaking on the transmission around the drive shaft. And pretty simple job, shouldn't take too long, so I'm going to try to bust that out here and record it because there's a lot of people out there that have never done something like this before. It's really simple. You can tackle it at home on your own, and all you got to do is go find the part and have a couple of simple tools. So we'll dive into that and show you what we're getting to. So there we go. The green '04 Chevy is what we're going to be working on. By the way, yeah, we got more stuff coming up on the C10. I just got some new C-notch brackets for the back and a couple of shock extenders, so we'll be getting those on and up here pretty quick. But this is our project for today. So we get over here. There's my nice little oil puddle right there. It's been happening for quite a while now, and so we got to get that stopped. So first things first, I'm sitting on a slope here, and even if you're not, make sure you block your back wheels, because once you pull that drive shaft loose, on my driveway, this thing would roll right down the hill and take out 2 or 3 other things in the process, and we don't want that. So block your back wheels. Most of the rest of this we should be able to do just from being underneath the truck. So let me get under there. We'll get the camera going on what we're doing, because you don't need to watch me crawl under the truck as an old guy, right? All right, be back in a second. All right, here's first thing on the project. We got 4 bolts holding the U-joint keepers in place there. There's 2 on this side and 2 around on the other side. I thought these were going to be metric, so I grabbed my metric wrench, but it turns out they're not. They're 7/16. So we just got to get them pulled out of there, all 4 of them, and that will allow our drive shaft to come loose. And I'm not going to bore you with how to operate a wrench to get bolts out. So we'll be back when I got those 4 out. All right, got our bolts out down there on a pile. Next thing we got to do is get this U-joint to pop loose from the yoke of the rear end, and that can usually be accomplished by sticking something in there and just prying it forward. Yeah, this is fantastic cinematography here. It's my specialty, in case you guys haven't figured that out. There we go. Just heard my wooden block move from under my back wheel. Let's make sure it's up tight against the wheel like that, because I don't want the thing to roll. I don't need to change my diaper thinking I'm gonna get run over here. All right, all kinds of wonderful room to work in here. So I think we've got her pretty well broke loose. Now the trick's going to be to slide it all the way to the front. So you got to slide it into the transmission and then back out, because you've got to get it completely out of that yoke right there. So what I'll do is shift myself farther up the drive shaft where I can get both hands on it, and I will slide it forward, and then we will end up pulling it back out of the transmission itself. And at that point, I'm going to get some oil leakage, so that's why I have the drain pan right there. I will come back when I've got the thing out, because I think you guys can figure that part out. All right, be back in a second. All right, got that back end of it down right there. Something that happened here, I did get up and I put the truck in neutral. That allowed the pressure to be taken off of this thing, because it was in a bind with the rear axle because of the hill the thing's sitting on. Also, my U-joint bearing caps came off there. You want to be careful if that happens and make sure that you keep all the roller bearings in place and get them back on there so you don't get dirt in there. I'm probably gonna cleaning them up a little bit when I go back together and make sure I grease the U-joint here. All right, now we are ready. So here's my new seal. I'm talking just a second about getting this thing out of there. Normally I would be trying to get something in here and behind that seal and try to pry it out that way, but I've got the output shaft of the transfer case coming out there and it's not going to let me do that. So I think my goal is going to be to try to drive something under that edge of the seal and lift it up out of there like that. And I'll probably end up using the screwdriver and the hammer to do that. So I'm going to get in there and play with it a little bit and either get it out or close to getting out and then show you what I accomplished. Okay, this is actually going to be simpler than I thought it was going to be, because that lip of the seal actually sticks out past the sides of the transmission. So I was able to just get a screwdriver and set it in there like that and then pound on the other end of it with the hammer, and the thing has just tapped right out of there. So I'm going to carry on with that and get it out of the way so that I got one hand to catch it with when it comes loose. All right, I'll be back. All right, that's what it looks like with the seal out of it. Next thing you need to do, you want to keep this clean, because this is like every other machine part in engine or transmission. You want to keep dirt out of it. So let's try to get as much of that gunky dirt wiped off of there as we can. Yeah, okay. Don't you just love all the shaking and rattling going on here, guys? It's got the outside pretty well cleaned up. The inside probably is clean because the seal was in it, but we're going to wipe it around like that once to get it good and clean. Wipe the shaft off. Now we should be ready to go back in with it. So here's our new seal, and I noticed something here. We've got, where is it? There in the background there, we got a notch in it right there. And on the opposite side of that notch, is that where it is? Yep, where you can't see it. There's a hole. Now I'm assuming that that hole needs to go down just so that any oil that gets in there does leak out rather than accumulating in there. So that's what we're going to do, is put it back in place with the hole down, and then we are going to take the hammer and gently tap around all the way around the edges of it until we get it going in straight, and then we're just going to gently tap it in until it seats down and this bottoms out against the thing right here. Okay, yeah, I know I could I'll show you a little bit more of this as I get it in there, but it's going to take both hands to get it started. So I will get it in there. The other thing is, I'm going to put a little bit of oil, make sure I get it on the inside of that seal right there so that I don't have raw rubber rubbing against steel. I want oil on it as I go back together, so I'll do that. Okay, I think we got that where you can see it there. I just wanted to show you how I put these seals back in there. Again, there is on the bottom of the seal, there's a little weep hole right there. We want to have that down. So we're going to put that over there. Kind of push it into place. It's not going to really go in, but then you want to just take a hammer and start gently working your way around it. You'll feel it starting to go in. Sometimes it'll want to pop out on the opposite side, but you can get a big round socket or something and put on there and drive it in more squarely, but this works too. Just be gentle and take your time. Work your way all the way around it. And there I can hear it and feel it bottoming out as it gets all the way in there. And that's what we want. We want to have it up tight to the lip of the transmission there. And so, yep, that's got us where we want to go. Now, my next thing will be to get the drive shaft poked in there. And let me, yeah, we'll get her cleaned off here because it's been sitting out overnight because I got distracted. Actually ended up with the wrong seal. Make sure when you get your seal, if you have a four-wheel drive like I do, that you get a transfer case rear seal instead of a transmission rear seal, which is what I did the first time and left me with a seal that was the wrong size. So, all right, let's put this baby back in there like that. It actually should slide right back in there, but it's not wanting to go. There we go. All right. And that should have us in place. Now, this is just hilarious trying to do this underneath the car with the camera on a tripod, because now you can't see anything that's going on, and I can't shut my camera off. Everybody getting sick? Okay, now we're going to get ready to put the drive shaft back onto the rear axle. And in order to do that, again, I got up here and put my shifter into neutral, which put the transmission in neutral, allowed the rear shaft of the transmission to rotate so I can align that to the rear end correctly. And then you see this debacle right here. That happened because yesterday when I turned my truck on to put the transmission in neutral. Actually, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. I forgot that I left the keys in the ignition all day long with the truck on, so I ran the battery down, so we got it back on the charger. All right, let's get back under here and see if we can get that drive shaft lined up and stuck into place there. All right, should be pretty straightforward to do one-handed. Yeah, right. Okay, see, I've got the transmission where I can turn it. Now that means that I can put this, I can get that lined up where I need it to. I'm on here. There. And get the drive shaft back in place. Now all I got to do is take my U-bolt clamps there, which they're not U-bolts on this truck, but anyway, get those put back in both sides, and I'll pretty much be done with the thing. Although I am going to try to grease that U-joint also at this point, because I haven't for a long time. All right, I'm going to get those bolts in there and be back and show you the end result. All right, we got our button back up here. One thing to do is make sure that you have that U-joint centered in the yoke so that it's the same distance on both sides sitting in there. There's usually a little ridge or something in there that holds it in that position, but just make sure you've got it there. Yeah, it can cause vibration, all kinds of stuff, and wear out that U-joint if you don't get it in there correctly. So, got it in there, got those tightened down. Really the only thing we've got left is to top the oil back off in the transmission, which I'll have to do up there, up in the engine compartment with it running. So, I think we're all finished down here. So much for that eventful video, all the wrestling around and everything. All right, guys, let's get back to the front. Okay, actually a little bit of a mistake there. You're using the same transmission fluid for the transfer case as you do with the transmission. However, they're not connected, so you have to fill them separately. So that bolt right there, you're going to take that out, and that's fill hole, and you're going to fill it up until it runs out of there using Dexron 3 or the equivalent transmission fluid. That's a synthetic fluid that's designed for these things to work properly now. So you fill that up till it runs out, put the plug back in, and now you're topped off and ready to go. While you're at it, double check your transmission fluid up in the engine compartment and make sure that it's in good shape. And that will wrap up this video on putting in that new rear transmission seal here. And that should take care of our problem where we've had oil leaking out all over the place. And fortunately, we caught it before we had a problem, which was good. And now we're ready to be off and running again. All right. Hope this was helpful to somebody, and if you enjoyed it and it was useful, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're grateful for all the people that watch and hope that this is useful. See you later, buddies.